Hi, I'm David Selno, your instructor for the Symbolics course, and we have so much good theological and spiritual work we want to do in the classroom that I don't really want to take classroom time to go through the syllabus, so I'm doing so here and making you watch it, and then demonstrate to me somehow that you've gone through these things. I'll have a little quiz online for you. This is the Symbolics course. We'll talk in class about what that means. We are a C block or D block affair that meets in room 264. If you're trying to find me at other times, my office is Old Main 231, but I don't really sit in my office waiting for people to show up. I maintain a lot of contacts with students and have a lot of appointments with students, but usually done in an appointment fashion where we've set something up in advance, and I'm happy to meet with you in various locations, not necessarily even just at my office. So if you need to see me or want to see me about anything, don't be afraid to ask, and we'll work out a time. The required materials for the course, the Book of Concord is, of course, a big framework of our study. We're delving into Lutheran confessional writings. We start that here at the college, and then you continue with that at the seminary. The edition that I've listed on the syllabus, the edition from Fortress Press, Kolb and Wengert as the editors, is the preferred edition that the seminary has chosen as its preferred English edition. That's why I listed for the pre-seminary students. But you can use any edition you want. There's the older English translation from the Concordia Triglata. That's available freely online. Whatever edition you wish to use is fine. I just have that listed as the preferred edition based on the seminary's choice or recommendation. There is another book that I'll ask you to get that we'll be doing as a little bit of a reading during the course of the semester, The Freedom of a Christian by Martin Luther, and I have listed a specific edition there because I like that edition, but again there are various editions available even online to access freely, so you can use something else if you would like to. Semester exam stuff is listed, of course, date and time for that. We'll get into that process as we get there. We'll see what needs to be tested at that time, and as always, it seems like the exam times are as ideal as possible. A Saturday and then a 7:30 in the morning Thursday, last day of exams. Yay! But we will stick to those and do what we need to do. You have the standard stuff on the syllabus of the college's mission statement, which of the college's goals apply to this course. Student learning outcomes for this course are listed. You can look through those. The whole section on MLC academic policies and all of the various things that are reported on every syllabus you get. Make use of things like the academic support services such as the Writing Center. If you need help with writing projects that you're doing, I highly recommend that service that the college provides, and not just for someone who might consider himself a weak writer, but in fact for anybody to hone and refine their writing processes. There will be a number of assignment projects in addition to our week-to-week work, and I'll go through those research writing, speaking assignments with some of the other handouts that I'm making available a little later in this little bit of a broadcast. You've got the credit hour policy. We meet for 150 minutes in the classroom a week, but of course you're supposed to have quite a bit of additional college-level homework expectations too. And I don't just mean busy work by that, but thoughtful work, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you into that college level of academic rigor that we aim for. Some of the policies I have for the classroom: attendance policy. I just hope you'll be there, and I hope you'll be polite and let me know when you're not going to be there. I want you to be paying attention when you are there. So just in the end, I don't have like a specific number, like if you miss a class, you lose so many points. But I just kind of keep track of things and your eagerness and your involvement and your participation. And when the course comes to its close and I'm working out grades, that may be a little bit of a bubble factor in terms of where you would rise or fall in the grading process. So I have that. And I also say I reserve the right to lower your course grade significantly if you have a major attendance problem. I've not generally had that as an issue with students, but just letting you know that that is on the syllabus if I need to invoke such a draconian sort of rule. I do have the note also, I'd like you attending your section, and I like to keep the sections in balance. And in fact, one of our sections is at max for the size of the room, so I can't really have a lot of movement between the two sections. But if there's an emergency situation where you could make it to the one section but not the other, not your normal section, maybe we could squeeze you in somehow on a given case like that. Grading policy, my grading scale is listed. The assignment weights are listed as far as what counts for what. The course schedule we'll be working out, and you'll get a copy of that, and we'll be updating that as you would choose topics for your own lessons that I'll be mentioning here in a moment. As you get to the bottom of the syllabus, talks about communicating with me as instructor, and one of the things I'd really like you to note there is that when you're trying to email me or open a chat window to me, make sure you see me. That's me, that self-portrait, the cartoon icon. That's my image in Google, in Gmail and Google Chat, and if you don't see that, you're not emailing me, you're sending it to the other David Selno, and he doesn't look at those emails, and they vanish in cyberspace. So make sure you see the real me when you want to communicate by email or chat. So then from there, we'll go on to some of the other handouts about various assignments that you'll be working on. One of the first assignments I have everyone do is to actually write a creed. This is a course in which we study the creeds of the ancient church, and I kind of like to have you see just what a challenging task that was for them. And so I give you the task of writing a creed. Now, it can be a specific Trinitarian three-part creed, the way the standard creeds of the church are, but you also may choose to do something like a Thanksgiving Day creed, or maybe a confession concerning the Lord's Supper. Sometimes if you narrow your focus a little bit like that, it's a little easier to do something and also not end up just feeling like, oh my goodness, how do I not just say what's already in the Nicene Creed or something like that. You can do poetry, but I say beware the pitfalls of pithy poetry. Sometimes I've had students try to make something in rhyme or meter line up just right, and then doctrinally it ends up a little awkward. So just so you know, hymn writing can be a challenging task, but go for it if you want to do that. So this is just an early assignment we'll do, and there's a set of things I look for as I go through the creed, and there's a rubric that shows you how I would score that. That's something we'll work on early in the semester as a way of just letting you see the challenge of what the creed writers and framers of the early church were going through as they did their work. One of the big assignments I'm going to have you working on during the course of the semester is a research project in which you do your own independent research on a particular church history topic. And as you work out that research, you will be aiming toward an annotated bibliography that you'll prepare and a paper proposal as if you were going to write a paper. I'm not going to ask you to write that paper, but you would kind of have the idea for it. And then we'll also ask everyone to do a little bit of sharing of their research with the class, just a very little bit of that. I've done this starting last year in an attempt to improve some of the work we're getting in the OTT competition of history paper writing. That's a scholarship essay paper project that pre-seminary students can do, and there are details online at ottpaperspot.blogspot.com, and we ask in that OTT paper contest for scholarship, of which I'm part of that committee, we ask that you submit a paper proposal in advance. And so what I'm trying to do with this Symbolics assignment, with the permission of the rest of that OTT committee, is have something that you could do this proposal for a paper that would count as your Symbolics assignment and would also be eligible as something you would submit in the OTT paper scholarship contest. And if you did that, of course, then you would end up actually writing a paper. You don't have to write a paper for me, but you certainly, if you want to participate in that OTT scholarship competition, you can aim to submit a paper for that. The paper for that is due in the spring, but the research beginnings of that and the proposal for that is done in the fall. So you can ask me other questions about that if you want. And I'll be happy to field some of those questions. As far as I'm concerned, you're going to be working out an annotated bibliography in which you have a number of sources, and I'm kind of specifying different types of sources you should try to have. I may not be completely rigid about that, but I'm trying to get you to spread out your research and not just have all of the same type. And I will ask you to annotate things so that you are telling me something about those sources that you found. This doesn't mean you've read every one of them thoroughly, but you've at least examined them enough, taken a look at them enough that you can describe what value you're seeing in those sources or why you would choose them as something for your research. Then you'll propose what you would do if you were going to write a paper. So you've had to do a little bit of research to know where you'd be going with this. And you'd have some sort of a theme or thesis that you're aiming, some direction that you're giving for the paper proposal. And all of this is stuff that you could use then also in that OTT paper competition. By the way, the OTT competition does not have to be a church history paper. I'm saying that for this course. But you can do history of any type for that, or even papers in the field of English or literature are eligible for that competition as well. You can see the OTT paperspot.blogspot.com if you want to learn more about that. And then when we get later in the semester and you've all had a chance to work through a bunch of that project, I'll ask each of you to get up for just a couple minutes, 2 to 3 minutes in the classroom, and just tell the others, here's what I've been working on, here's something you might like to know about this. So that's the research project. And then the other major thing that I'm going to have as a big assignment, project assignment for you each to work through is some micro-teaching in the classroom. Some years ago, I used to have students in this class do a devotion, and we'd start class with a devotion, and that was good. But I had some students kind of point out that they really don't have opportunities in the pre-seminary curriculum that often to do teaching. You get other opportunities, such as evening chapel, where you do some devotion writing and leadership, but the teaching opportunities within our curriculum maybe aren't as often. And so since Symbolics is in the Speaking Across the Curriculum program for the college, I thought this would be a good way to do that, where it would be a teaching experience. So you'll pick out a topic, and I've got a bunch of them listed on the handout as possible topics. We could come up with others. And they'll dovetail with the material we want to cover in the creeds and Luther's small called articles. And so there could be other topics, anything pertinent to that material in the creeds and the small called articles that could be addressed. And I'll want each of you to pick a topic that's focused enough that you can do it in a brief sort of Bible study approach. The publishing house, our Northwestern Publishing House, had a habit of producing something called 19-minute Bible studies, especially for churches that hadn't had a tradition of Bible study and were trying to fit a Bible study in between church services on a Sunday and only had like a half-hour time slot to work with. I'm kind of looking at it that way, that this is not a big, you're not filling a whole block period, but you have to just narrow this down to something you can do in half an hour or less. And we'll give you that amount of time in the classroom, and each of you will teach a lesson, and I can offer some feedback on your teaching in doing that. So with each of these lessons, after you pick the topic, you'll also be giving me a plan at least 3 days prior to your presentation or lesson day, so that we can kind of negotiate that I know what you're doing and you've worked out what you're doing and you have a plan for how you're going to approach that lesson. So that covers the various things that you have in this course as the bigger assignments and the syllabus information. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. And there is a little quiz I'll prepare to kind of just see that you've worked through this little video treatment. Thank you.